Today I'm going to talk to you about the app I have been designing. I'll walk you through the design process, the problem-solving journey, and the solutions. The app is called Lingo Life. It's a mobile app that empowers people to learn new vocabulary, designed to be simple, effective, and relevant to you, the user. Samuel Turner is our primary persona. He's a 27-year-old business analyst living in Melbourne, Australia. He works for a large consulting firm. He's single and loves travelling overseas. In a typical week, he enjoys eating out with mates, drinking coffee, listening to podcasts, and reading articles online. He's always planning his next overseas adventure and likes to learn the language in preparation for his trip. He wants to learn useful words and basic greetings to enhance his experience whilst away and to better immerse himself in the culture. He likes to speak the local language to show respect, be polite, and best of all, get local recommendations. The project brief is to design a mobile app that empowers Samuel to learn new vocabulary in preparation for travelling to a foreign country. Samuel is busy and would like to squeeze in short study sessions whilst on the go. For example, catching the train to work or waiting in line for a coffee. It's important that Samuel can methodically categorise and study new words to assist with effective learning, as well as quickly access saved words. The problem statement is, Samuel is a keen traveller who needs a tool to effectively learn and memorise new words and phrases to enhance his experience whilst travelling abroad. We believe that by providing Samuel with a range of learning features that address a variety of learning styles, he will reach his goal of learning and memorising new words. During the early stages of this project, I completed user research, which involved a number of user interviews. It was apparent that one of the most commonly occurring frustrations when learning new vocab was based around memory and the ability to actually remember new words. It was evident that this needed to be a major focus in the app design to ensure that it solved Samuel's problem. Some of the quotes that I got from my user interviews were, I get frustrated when I forget words. I find the sheer volume of words to remember challenging. I dislike multiple choice when learning because I find myself just guessing and seeing the wrong answer in front of me doesn't help. I got annoyed when it didn't repeat the word. I think it's tricky when words are presented randomly. I find it helpful to have them grouped into topics. So these are my initial sketches, and I've just shown sketches of the home screen and a bit of a progress of them. These really allowed me to put my ideas from my head down onto paper. I played around with a few different layouts before transferring my designs onto the computer. My aim with the initial sketches was to place things in a logical position that allowed Samuel to navigate through the different tasks in an intuitive, seamless, and predictable way. I made sure to include a number of features to specifically address the struggles that the users spoke about in the interviews. Once an initial Marvel prototype was developed, it was time for testing. To test the utility and the usability of my prototype, I recruited 3 friends for usability testing. I observed them navigate through the Marvel prototype and took notes of their comments. I asked each user to say their thoughts out loud and to vocalize any concerns or confusions they had. I completed this usability testing for a number of reasons. I wanted to gain feedback about my early designs so that I could make changes before refining things further. I wanted to gain insight about the flow and usability of the app. Was the app intuitive and easy to use? Were buttons placed in logical locations? Was access to the features self-explanatory and logical? Were there any silly mistakes? And did the user have any ideas about how it could be improved to make using the app as seamless and as enjoyable as possible? It was really important to gather this feedback before making any further progress. To demonstrate the try-fail process that I underwent, I have chosen to give specific examples by talking about 2 of the tasks that I asked users to complete during testing. On the left, you can see the early prototype which I tested to find the failures. I then went about a problem-solving journey and made modifications based on the feedback. You can see these improvements on the right. So the first task that I'm going to talk about is to learn a new word. This involved viewing a flashcard and clicking on different parts of the flashcard to expose things like pictures and definitions. So some users were a bit confused why there was not an actual word to learn, so that was quite an easy fix. I provided an example word to give more sense to the user. One user was quite confused by the microphone symbol. They thought that it meant they had to hold down that button and speak, whereas that button is actually intended to give you correct pronunciation of the word when you click it. So I changed the symbol to an ear to signify listening. I had one user who said he would like to be able to save the word to his favorites. Now this was a feature, but it just wasn't very easy to find how to use it, so I made this feature more obvious and accessible. Okay, the next task that I'm just going to talk about is review a flashcard. So this involves clicking on the My Flashcards button on the home screen to access a flashcard that the user has previously made. So again, you can see the early prototype on the left and the improvements on the right. First of all, users didn't find the word stack overly intuitive and obvious. They thought it would make more sense if it said category. It took all of the users longer than expected for them to find the My Flashcards button. They found it difficult to locate and felt that it should not be lumped in with the other categories. So as you can see on the right, the layout has been redesigned to separate the favorites button and the My Flashcards button to make it easier for users to really find what they're looking for. To improve the prototype further, I would make a number of changes as well as conduct more user testing. I would change the hierarchy on the splash page so that the creating a new account was the main button, and I would make the button for existing users to log back in much smaller because the app should remember their details and keep them logged in. I would develop simpler onboarding screens to make it less overwhelming for Samuel and other users. I would make it look like an actual flashcard. I would incorporate a way for Samuel to track his progress to keep him motivated. I would add a reminders feature to help Samuel practice on a regular basis. And I would do some research around the most optimal way of presenting the account settings and support screens and make changes as necessary. This slide is all about what went well and what didn't go so well. Recognizing what I've learned will really help me with future projects. I learned quite quickly that what I think is best or most logical is not always the case. I really tried to listen to my users during the interviews to help me make design decisions. Different people have different opinions and ideas, and when I asked them to justify these thoughts and reasons, it made me realize that there was sometimes a better way. This highlighted the importance of user interviews and user research and how a fresh set of eyes is incredibly valuable when developing a new idea. It became obvious to me that I learn best by doing. Reading about a step in the design process was interesting, but actually putting it into practice really allowed me to understand it and remember it. I really enjoyed the parts of the design process where I was refining my ideas, as opposed to starting with a blank canvas, which I find a bit more overwhelming. Realizing this will help me to choose work that I actually enjoy in the future. Okay, what didn't go so well? I often find myself getting caught up in the little details early on, which inevitably results in poor time management. I learned how important it is to start with the basics and to leave any details to the later stages. I sometimes found myself designing a part of the app which was not necessary, such as adding in extra features that were not in the brief. I felt like sometimes I was creating more work for myself. I need to continually refer back to the brief to ensure I stay on track. Thanks very much for watching. This is a link to the Marvel prototype if you'd like to check it out.